The sky that afternoon was painted in soft shades of orange and yellow, sunlight filtering through dry tree branches, casting long, scattered streaks of light across the dusty ground. 6-year-old Lucas was playing alone near the abandoned construction site at the edge of town. It used to be an old brick factory. Now only cracked walls and cold cement floors covered with wild grass remained. For adults, it was a place no one wanted to visit. But for a child with a natural curiosity like Lucas, it was an entire universe full of secrets waiting to be explored. Lucas jumped over broken concrete slabs, chasing a yellow butterfly without realizing he was about to stumble upon something strange. When the butterfly disappeared behind a pile of rubble, Lucas stopped. A light breeze blew by, carrying an unusual chill that made him shiver. He was about to turn away when, uh, um, Lucas was startled. His eyes widened, clutching tightly onto his toy car still covered in dirt. He froze, trying to identify the sound. A long silence followed, making him almost think it was just the wind. But then the faint whimper came again, clearer this time, filled with desperation and sorrow. The sound came from a seemingly solid cement wall, with only a few long cracks like a spider's web. Lucas approached, squatted down, and pressed his ear against the wall. His little heart pounded fiercely in his chest. "Who's in there?" he whispered. No answer came, only a faint, shallow breath. Then another groan, as if the creature inside was trying to call for help, but had no strength left. Lucas jumped up and looked around. Not a soul in sight. The nearest houses were hundreds of meters away. He frowned, unsure whether to run back and get an adult or to keep investigating. Fear crept in, but his compassion was stronger. He gently patted the wall and said, "Don't be afraid. I'll come back. I'll help you get out." But just as he took a few steps away, a soft scratching sound came from the wall. Lucas turned back. From a small crack near the base, something yellowish and trembling poked out. A dog's paw! He held his breath. Now Lucas had no doubt. There was a living creature trapped inside the wall. Shock surged through Lucas's heart. How could a dog be stuck inside cement? Who would do such a thing? And why had no one heard it all this time? He sensed something terribly wrong, as if behind that wall was not only a dying life, but a horrible secret adults were trying to hide. Swallowing hard, his small face lit up with determination. He ran as fast as he could home, his little legs flying over the bumpy road, shouting, "Mom! Mom! Someone! There's a dog buried in the wall! Mom, hurry!" Lucas ran home as if chased by ghosts, his small legs stumbling several times on the rocky path. Even though his knees were scraped and bleeding, he didn't stop. His breath came in short gasps, his heart pounding wildly in his chest, mingling with the wind whistling past his ears. He had only one thought: he had to save that dog. When Lucas pushed open the door, his mother, Amanda, who was preparing dinner in the kitchen, turned around, startled. "Lucas, where have you been? Why are your knees scraped like that?" I heard a noise. There's a dog trapped inside a wall," Lucas blurted out, still out of breath. "Mom, it's really there. It's whining, and its paw was sticking out of a crack. I saw it clearly." Amanda frowned. She was used to her son's vivid imagination. He had once claimed to see dragons flying in the sky or hear cats talking in the garden. But this time, something in Lucas's eyes made her hesitate. This was not the look of a child making things up. It was real fear mixed with determination. "Lucas, are you sure?" she asked again, her voice more serious. The boy nodded so hard that his hair got messy. "Mom, I heard it's breathing. It's groaning. I have to save it. It's in so much pain. If we don't help, it will die." Amanda hesitated. The abandoned site was dangerous, full of traps and sharp debris. But Lucas's final words made her restless. How could she teach her son compassion if she turned her back on a life begging for help? Just minutes later, Amanda was driving Lucas back to the site. She also called animal rescue and local police, just in case something really unusual was happening. By the time they arrived, the sun was almost hidden behind the trees, and the air felt heavy, as if warning of impending trouble. Lucas led his mother to the exact wall. He crouched down, his hand trembling as he pointed to the crack. "Here, Mom, listen." Amanda was speechless. Indeed, there was a faint, weak sound, like shallow breathing, like a creature running out of strength. Minutes later, rescue workers and a police officer arrived. They immediately used special tools to widen the crack, carefully avoiding harming the creature inside. Lucas stood nearby, holding his mother's hand tightly, his eyes never leaving the wall. His heart was full of worry and tension, as if 1 second's delay might be too late. Just as the flashlight beam shone deep into the broken cement, a hoarse sound rang out louder than ever. The whole rescue team held their breath. Then, two large, round eyes filled with pain and fear appeared. The poor German shepherd dog, now named Max by Lucas, was still alive. Lucas was so overjoyed he nearly cried. He whispered softly, "I promised I'd come back for you, Max." The sound of shovels, chisels, and drills echoed through the abandoned construction site like an alarm heralding an impending disaster about to be uncovered. While the rescue team carefully widened the cement around the crack, Amanda took out her phone and called the local police, not just to report an animal trapped, but driven by suspicion. How could a dog be naturally sealed inside cement? "Yes, I'm at the old construction site south of town." Amanda spoke quickly into the phone. "We found a dog buried alive." "Yes, inside the wall. It's still alive but very weak. Please send someone immediately, and I believe this might be intentional." There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then a deep male voice confirmed that an officer would be dispatched right away. Amanda hung up, her eyes full of worry as she glanced at Lucas, who was sitting close to the wall, eyes fixed on every chisel strike by the rescuers. Suddenly, a loud crack sounded. The cement beneath shattered open. A pair of thin legs, matted fur caked with dried cement, dropped to the ground, making everyone hold their breath. A rescuer quickly reached in to pull the creature out, and when Max was fully revealed, all eyes went silent. The dog was emaciated, his body covered in sores, with sunken eyes and one ear torn. There was no sign that he had ever been cared for in a kind environment. The most terrifying detail, the cement surrounding Max's body, showed that he hadn't been trapped by accident, but rather had been deliberately encased in cement while still alive. One rescuer whispered, almost unable to believe what he was witnessing, "God, who could do such a thing?" At that moment, Officer Daniel Harris, a seasoned cop experienced in animal abuse cases, arrived. He crouched down, examining Max in the wall, then silently circled the area, taking notes. When he returned, he said to Amanda, "This couldn't have been an accident. Someone deliberately locked the dog inside. The cement is fresh, not more than a few weeks old. Your boy saved its life." Lucas heard this, and a spark of innocence mixed with resolve lit up his eyes. "I promised Max I would come back and save him." Harris nodded, then said gravely, "If you hadn't come back in time, it would have suffocated in there. Maybe just one more day, and it would have been over." Shortly after, a veterinary ambulance arrived. Max was gently placed on a stretcher, his whole body wrapped in a thermal blanket. A vet staff member said, "His heart is weak, but he still has a chance to recover. With proper care, he will survive." Amanda grasped Lucas's hand tightly. "You did an amazing thing, Lucas," she said, voice trembling. But inside, she knew the truth they had just touched on was even darker. Who could be cruel enough to lock a living creature inside a cement wall? And why? The veterinary ambulance sped away from the abandoned construction site, leaving behind a cloud of dust and heavy, anxious gazes. Max, the poor dog recently rescued from the cement wall, lay motionless on the stretcher, his eyes half closed, barely clinging to the fragile line between life and death. In the emergency room of the local veterinary center, Dr. Sarah Bennett and her team worked urgently. They administered fluids, supplied oxygen, and monitored Max's heart rate and body temperature. "His temperature is low, his heartbeat weak, severe dehydration signs. But he's still fighting," Sarah whispered as she gently wiped away the dried cement and blood from the dog's body. "We won't let him give up." Lucas stood by the glass door of the emergency room, his face pressed against the cold pane. He didn't take his eyes off Max for a single second. His young heart felt crushed. He whispered like a promise, "Hang in there, Max. You have to live." Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah discovered shocking details that stunned the entire medical team. Multiple chemical burns on his skin, dense bruises around his belly, and most notably, a long cut on one of his hind legs, likely caused by a knife. On top of that, X-rays revealed Max had two previously broken ribs, healed crookedly, indicating past abuse. "My God," Sarah murmured. "Someone tortured this dog for a long time before deciding to bury him alive." At the same time, Officer Daniel Harris arrived at the vet clinic to gather the report. When shown Max's injury scans and test results, his expression darkened. "This isn't just abuse," he said grimly. "This is destruction. Someone deliberately silenced a witness, and Max is that living witness." His words cut through the air like a cold blade. Amanda shuddered. Lucas, even though he didn't fully grasp the meaning, felt something was very wrong. He looked up at his mother, eyes full of questions. "Does he mean someone didn't want Max to live?" Amanda squeezed his hand tightly. "You did the right thing, Lucas, and now we won't let anyone hurt Max anymore." In the following days, Max received intensive care at the center. His frail body recovered slowly, step by step. Lucas came every day, bringing toys, drawing pictures, and telling stories to Max. Every time the dog wagged his tail slightly or opened his eyes to look at Lucas, it was a small but precious victory. After examining the wounds more closely, Sarah concluded firmly, Max was kept in a cage, beaten, starved, and finally locked alive inside the wall. This wasn't a momentary act, it was a systematic chain of torture. This information was immediately passed to the investigation team. Daniel Harris ordered a manhunt for the mastermind, while sending people back to the site to collect DNA traces, leftover cement samples, and any evidence of who had been entering and leaving the abandoned site. Lucas, though still a child, now had a sparkle in his eyes resembling maturity. He was no longer just a boy who accidentally discovered a dog in a wall. He was now a witness, a protector, a beacon of hope for Max, and the first to force the world to face a crime that should have been buried forever. Nearly a week after Max was rescued, the dog's health gradually stabilized. Every day, Lucas faithfully came to the veterinary center, carrying his scribbled drawings and candy crumbs tucked in his shirt pocket, even though Max couldn't eat much. Dr. Sarah said Max had passed the most critical stage, but still needed time and special care. To Lucas, Max was like a friend who had just returned from the brink of death, and he refused to let him feel lonely for another moment. At the same time, the police investigation began to yield its first clues. Officer Daniel Harris, with his sharp instincts and years of experience, found an old security camera footage near the abandoned site, which was privately owned but long forgotten. Reviewing the footage, he spotted a green pickup truck coming and going from the construction site right around the time Max was believed to have been trapped. From the blurry license plate captured on video, the investigation team traced the owner, Travis Monroe, a middle-aged man with a criminal record for animal abuse 3 years earlier. Travis used to run a dog training facility, but after being caught using violent methods, his business was shut down. However, no one expected he continued his horrific acts in secret behind the law's back. When Daniel and the police raided Travis's residence, they found many empty metal cages, several partially used bags of cement, and dog hair matching Max's DNA samples. In his house, they also found handwritten logs detailing special training sessions, including Max, who was labeled a disobedient dog. "We believe Max was part of an illegal training program," Daniel reported to Amanda. "He refused to obey extreme commands, and Travis saw that as betrayal. He chose to deal with Max, not by shooting or abandoning him, but by burying him alive in cement. Cruel, cold, and deliberate." Amanda was stunned by the news. She looked at Lucas, sitting close beside Max, gently stroking the fur that had been shaved and was now growing back. A 7-year-old boy with pure courage in his heart had exposed a crime that even adults had failed to detect. So, if Lucas hadn't heard those cries, she whispered, voice trembling, then Max would have been lost forever inside that wall, and Travis would still be free. Travis was arrested and faced multiple charges, including severe animal abuse, indirect attempted murder, and violation of professional bans. When the news spread, the local community was shaken. They organized prayer gatherings for Max and sent hundreds of gifts and well wishes to the veterinary center. But for Lucas, the greatest miracle was not just Max's survival, it was that Max never gave up hope. Max waited, he told his mother. Even when abandoned and trapped, he believed someone would come find him. And I heard that call. Amanda looked at her son, no longer just a boy, but a symbol of faith, bravery, and redemption. Nearly 2 months after Max was pulled out from the cement wall, the veterinary center had become a temporary home for a miracle, a living story of resilience and rebirth. Max's wounds gradually healed, his fur grew back, smooth and thicker than before. But what touched everyone the most wasn't just his physical recovery, it was Max's eyes which had changed. From dull and fearful, they now sparkled with hope and love. Lucas was there every day, no matter rain or shine. He brought small balls, covered Max's kennel with his drawings, and whispered innocent imaginary stories. Max, as if understanding everything, always wagged his tail when he saw Lucas's figure enter. Once, when Lucas had fallen asleep leaning on the kennel's edge, Max gently rested his head on the boy's hand, a moment that left the veterinary staff speechless. Max is healing, not just physically, Dr. Sarah told Amanda. Lucas is his most precious medicine for the soul. But strangely, the healing didn't happen only to Max. Lucas changed too. The shy boy, once afraid of the dark and plagued by nightmares, grew stronger and braver. Amanda noticed her son smiled more, slept better, and every time he talked about Max, his eyes shone like a little light in the darkness. One day, Dr. Sarah called Amanda into her office. Max is now fully ready to be discharged, she smiled. And if you still want to adopt him, today could be the day Max officially finds his new family. Amanda didn't hesitate. She had thought about this from the very first moment Lucas called Max's name and promised to come back for him. They were no longer two separate beings. They belonged to each other. That afternoon, when Lucas came to the center as usual, he found Max was no longer in the kennel. His small heart skipped a beat. "Mom, where's Max?" he asked, voice trembling. Amanda just smiled and opened the car trunk, where Max lay, wearing a green scarf embroidered by hand with the name Max Hero. "Max is going home with you, Lucas. Forever." The boy hugged the dog tightly, tears streaming down Max's soft fur. Max nestled his head into Lucas's chest, letting out a warm whimper, as if promising, "We will never be apart again." From that day, Max and Lucas became inseparable best friends. They went to school together, played in the backyard every afternoon, and slept under a warm blanket on cold nights. Max was not just a lucky survivor. He became a protector, a confidant, and living proof of the miracle born from a child's pure love. The townspeople called Max the dog who came back from cement, and Lucas the boy of compassion. But to Lucas, none of those titles mattered. To him, Max was simply the friend he heard in the silence and chose to love with all his heart.